Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Thursday to you, August 21st. I know that this call is a special one. And Kurt Beavers, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share tonight on halftime. When we think about halftime, all of us have halftime stories, whether it's in sports or it's in life. We all have halftime stories. That first half and what our life looks like, and really making a choice on what that second half looks like. I think it's so important. And I just want to say thank you to always thinking about how we can give back to our friends and family. And that's what this is all about. It's a community. And you're going to hear a series of trainings through this halftime series where you're going to learn a little bit more about what you can do to move yourself forward, what you can do to move your business forward, or maybe you just need a change in your life. And I think that's what's important. You know, when I think of halftime and I think about the word, if you go back to the 1500s, that's when they first think that it was defined as far as halftime. What that meant there and the definition between, hey, if you're going into a game, it's that middle point. It's that middle point that you go into that first half, and then you get that middle point and going into the second half, and they called it halftime in the early 1500s, in the mid 1500s. And I think about that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, back then, what kind of sports were they involved with? And back then, it was really about jousting. If you think about it, jousting back in the mid 1500s, or wrestling, or dice games, or archery were some of the games that were happening in 1500. Now, I'm going to share some words with you tonight, and I hope it resonates with where we're at today. It's about learning. And really, as I thought about this presentation and thinking about this training, I thought, you know, what can I share that would be helpful to all of you? And so I'm going to share with you some stories, as well as maybe some things to think about as leaders as we move forward. And you know, when I think about this and I think about halftime, really it's what we do, it's how we play in the second half that makes that matters, that makes all the difference in the world. It's what we do after that tough point, or maybe that moment that we stall out. Maybe it's that moment of our relationship, maybe a relationship change, and we're like, what are we going to do with that second half? I have some close friends of mine who've had some recent relationship changes. Very, very difficult times for them. And in some cases, they've gone through a divorce, or they've had some change in what has happened. And they're like, well, you know, what do I do now? And it's really that halfway point, halftime point. Or maybe it's a new relationship. Maybe it's something exciting. And you're saying, you know what? I want to be different. I want to act different. Or maybe it's a business leader that's looking for that second half of saying, you know what? I used to have this momentum, and I need new momentum now. It's that halfway point. And a lot of us think of halftime in sports. We think of these stadiums, we think of these big cheering moments where it's halftime and we get to go have our drinks and talk and have fun. But we also have lifetime in our own halftime in our own lives. And we have to think about those things. And for me, I think about this, and I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. There are many half times that I've experienced. I think all of us are going to experience different half times in our life. And for me, as I said, I want to be a little vulnerable. For me, you know, when I was first meeting my wife, Heidi, over 30 years ago, I was a different person. I think all of us were 30 years ago when Juice Plus was starting. Over 30 years ago, we started our relationship. And back then, I had a full head of hair. And I know this might sound silly, but for me, it was that time where I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't want to lose my hair, but look at me now. But back then, I'm going to show you something, and I'm not going to leave this up for very long. I'm going to show you a picture of what Heidi and I looked like back then when we were meeting. In fact, this is when we were first meeting. Someone took this picture. We were on a river here. You can see I have a full head of hair. And at that point, for me, it was very, very hard because I knew I was losing my hair. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I remember Heidi sitting down with me. I remember Heidi sitting down with me and saying, I don't love you because of your hair. I don't love you because you did this, or you're doing this, or you have, I love you because of you. And it was that halftime moment for me that made me realize, you know, I can still be the person that she fell in love with. I can still be a great person. I have to look past those things. And many of us get in our own way. Maybe it's the way we look. Maybe it's the way we feel. Maybe it's certain elements that were involved with our business. Maybe someone did something or said something and it just threw us off and we can't get over that. It's that second half that moves us forward. And I think about this. One of the stories that I love most And a story that I heard recently is about a company, this company here called Kodiak Cakes. And Kodiak Cakes, back in the early 1982, if I wrote these notes down, Penny Clark, she had her son, her oldest son, Joel, who would take these what they call pancakes, and she would make the powder from, and she learned from her dad, and she said, I'm going to make these pancakes and I want you to walk around the neighborhood and I want you to sell. So he would take his wagon and he would take these pancakes and he would go door to door. Can you believe this? Door to door and sell these pancakes. That's how Kodiak Cakes really began. The story of Kodiak Cakes began. And as it started to grow, that's how this business started out. From the ground level of door-to-door sales, a little kid, 8 years old, that was going around and selling this off the back of a wagon. But Kodiak Cake moved on and it started to grow and it had challenges. And this first half of the story was about trial and error and family and people taking over. And then one day, their son took over the business. And he took it on to say, hey, I'm going to do more with this business and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it to the next level. In fact, he and a friend decided that they were going to go on the world famous Shark Tank. At the Shark Tank show, they said, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to ask for money, and we're going to use their expertise and grow this company. Well, what they found at the Shark Tank was that they were selling this idea. They asked for money and a percentage, they would give a percentage of the ownership back to the Shark Tank. There was some interest from the Shark Tanks. They asked questions. What is your dream? What is your vision? What is your revenue? What is your plan? And all of this in front of millions of people, they failed. They did not get a deal. The Shark Tank said, hey, good, but not necessarily a good enough idea for us. Good, but we're not willing to invest with you. Good, we don't know if this is going to be a long-term company. And can you imagine being in that situation where you have all these dreams, you have all this excitement, you have this history of selling on a wagon, and now you're moving it forward. You believe in this, you believe in something, and then you're being told no. First half, second half. And you can imagine in that halftime moment that what do you do? And for Kodiak, and what they've done is they've done some amazing things since that show. And the halftime, and I think about this, it's how do we play the second half that matters. And today, Kodiak Pancakes is worth over 150 million and growing with their business. From a startup selling wagons to over 150 million. And some people estimate much more than that. Now, the reason why I share that, and the reason when I saw this on Shark Tank and I hear the story and I hear about this, I think about Kirk's message to us and like, what are we doing with this second half? And for Kodiak, they took that and they said, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? And in our own personal lives, how do we envision what that second half looks like? And for me, and for all of the people around us, and to think that they want a healthier life, they want to, Juice Plus, we think about what are we going to do? Our mission of enhancing lives and really providing healthy opportunities for people around the world. We know that we have the best products. We know that we have a model that millions of people have looked at. Millions of people have had success with their health products, and hundreds of thousands of people have used this platform to build a financial business. That's what I love about this. And it's our halftime. It's your halftime to really doing this. No one can hold you back. And I think about life as far as what's in front of us and the challenges that people go through. And I think about, when people are in power or people in these situations and they're asked to do the most difficult things, what do they do with their halftime? How do they move forward? And I want to share something that I think one of the greatest leaders in that I can remember. And now I'm not going to talk about political affiliations. It's not that. But one of the greatest leaders as far as communicators was the great communicator. And some of you know him as Ronald Reagan. Again, I'm not asking for you to side with any type of political affiliation. But Ronald Reagan was gifted as far as how he would share things, how he would talk to people and communicate. And many people looked at that as, oh gosh, here's someone who could really share. Well, I want to share a story with you that took place, and I'm looking at some of my notes, that took place on June 6, 1984. And on June 6, 1984, it was the 40-year anniversary of D-Day. And what happened is Ronald Reagan flew over with his wife and sat down in front of all the people on the shores of what is called Point du Hoc. And Point du Hoc is where the Allies came in on D-Day, and they climbed these walls. They came in, and it was all for the freedom. And if you can imagine, Ronald Reagan on 1984, on the 40th anniversary at the time of D-Day, he sat in front of these Rangers, the Rangers that were still alive at that time. And you can see here, he saluted them and talked with them about this time. Now, what I'm about to share with you is a script, the actual script that Ronald Reagan shared in front of this group and on that day in 1984 about these men. And what I love about this is that you can see on the right hand, on his right hand side, were all of these Rangers, the ones that survived that war right there on that D-Day. And during the speech, he shared some of these words, and I'm going to share these with you. And if you think about this, you think about the first half of these men's life, and the second half following. And I'm going to read some of the script, and he says this: as we stand here today, the air is soft and full of sunlight. And if we pause and listen, we will hear the snap of the flags and the click of cameras and the gentle murmur of people coming to visit this place, a great sanctuary city, a meaning. But 40 years ago today, 40 years ago as I speak, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men. The air was filled with the crack of rifle fire and the boom of cannons. Before dawn and the morning of the 6th of June of 1944, 200 American Rangers, these Rangers that are there sitting off a British landing craft. Now, if you can imagine, they're climbing, they're fighting this war, many of them being killed. And what he went on to say was one of the greatest speeches that I think I've ever heard, and considered one of the greatest speeches ever. He went on to say, 200 came here. After 2 days of fighting, and you can see he scratched off, this is his actual script. 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. I stand here today before 62 survivors of that battle. They are the boys. They are the boys of Point du Hoc. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the men who helped free a continent. What I love about this is that he went on to talk about where they were at and what they did. Now, the first half of this is their life before this, and halftime was like taking charge, moving forward, and taking this cliff and all of this area. Now, what did they do in the second half? I want to read some of this. After successfully taking on Point du Hoc, the 2nd and 5th Ranger Battalions, this group, continued to fight across France and into Germany. They were involved with numerous battles, including the Battle for Brest, the Hurtgen Forest, and the Battle of the Bulge. They also participated in the crossing of the Rohr River and advanced into Germany. These Rangers served as a fire brigade. What I love about this, and what I think about this, and I think about halftime, sometimes this first half is about where we're at, what we're doing, and the second half is about what we do after this. And the story really illustrates that we don't stop. We keep fighting, we keep moving forward, and we are going to experience some of the toughest things. And these men experienced, I can't even imagine, unimaginable circumstances, but they kept fighting. Your goals are worth it. Our lives are worth it. Our families' lives are worth it. Our children, our grandchildren, the future, our legacies that we leave. It's halftime, and it's our time to move forward. So what do we do with this? You know, it's halftime, and I think about this. So how do we move forward? And I think about, it's halftime now. Now what? Now, what I think about this is, number one is we have to have radical self-honesty. self-honesty about where we're at and what we're feeling, how we're thinking about this, what our behaviors were, what was our habits. Maybe we didn't have the right habits. Radical honesty about where we're at and what we're doing. The second is select your surroundings. And this is not just about the surroundings that we live in, it's about the people that we're around, the communities that we put ourselves with. For many of us, we're on our way. We're going to be heading to Indianapolis. It's a great way for us to lift ourselves up, get connected again. But some of us are in these surroundings where you're around negative people, you're around negative circumstances. You can't get out of this. You're always watching the negative news instead of talking and learning about how you can evolve and what you can do to move yourself forward. But select your surroundings. Number three is identify the shift. What's the shift that you're going to make? Identify the shift that, hey, this makes me feel good, or I'm going to move my business forward, or I'm going to change my relationship in this way. Identify the shift and make sure that you have that shift. You write it down and say, you know what? I identified a shift in the way I felt when I did this. I identified a shift in the way I felt when I participated in this. Identify the shift. And number four is set your North Star. I often tell people, and here at Juice Plus, our North Star is so bright. We are so excited about what we're doing as far as where we're going as a company. Yes, we've had some challenges. Yes, we've had to have some radical self-honesty. Yes, we've had to sit down and say, okay, well, this is where we're at. We've had some challenges. We've talked about the surroundings we're at. We're going to move on from some bad things that have happened, and we're going to move ourselves forward. But we are going to set our North Star as far as attracting thousands of new customers and thousands of new rank advancements, and hundreds of new NMDs and PMDs and so forth. We are moving forward. We're going to have new innovation. Yes, this technology is going to be fixed. We're so excited about what's happening with our stakeholders and their belief in our company and these owners now that are saying, you can do this. And the second half, our second half and your second half is where we have to make it count. I know that we can have success. I know that you will have success. That's why I feel it's so important that you be a part of these calls and the calls that are following up. And you're ending with Kurt. Kurt, I just want to say thank you. I believe, I really believe that at Juice Plus we are making a difference. There's no doubt that we have a lot to work towards, and we have a lot to look forward to. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come on this halftime show, and I look forward to all the rest of the trainings from all of the great leaders here. Take advantage of this learnings, take advantage of things, put it into your own lives. Forget all of the stuff. Make sure that you have some radical self-honesty and move yourself forward. Thank you again for allowing me the time, Kurt, and thank you again for joining. Hope you have a great night. Bye now.